Hey guys, welcome back to Sultry Makeup. This is Italia. Today's video is going to be an updated eyebrow tutorial. It's been requested for quite some time and I'm finally getting around to it. So I filmed the brow tutorial before I got all of this ready. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and if you want to know how I do my brows, then just keep on watching. So the first product that I'm going to use is my MAC Brow Pencil in Spiked. And this is a color that I use often. Another color that I use, depending on, the look that I do, if it's a little bit of like a darker, heavier makeup look, is Stud, which is a little bit of a darker brown. So I always go in with the lighter brown first. And before you start with your brows, make sure they're tweezed, waxed, threaded, whatever you do. Make sure they're trimmed, and make sure that you apply a moisturizer or eye cream to the brow area. That way all your products sit nicely, and especially when you use that Studio Finish concealer to clean up around the brows. If you have any dry skin, that concealer will really pick it up. So go ahead and do that first. Then taking my brow pencil, and I'm going to start by outlining the bottom part of my brow. Just doing light, short strokes. So just like that. Then I'm going to go ahead and outline the top part of my brow. And at this point, the shape doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just getting kind of like a general shape outlined. We can always go back and perfect it later. So that's what we'll have so far. Then using an angled liner brush, I'm using my MAC 263. You can use any angled eyeliner brush that you want. I'm going to go ahead and start feathering the line down, so just blending the pencil in a little bit in the top and the bottom. This way I don't have to use a whole lot of product at the front of the brow, and it'll make it look a little bit softer. And then just doing the same thing for the rest of the brow, just lightly blending in the pencil. And then wherever you need more product, you can just always add some more. And you always want to use just really light, short, hair-like strokes. You don't want to just literally fill it in like you're coloring or something. Okay, so once you're happy with what you have, again, you just want to blend in the pencil. Then what I want to do is set the brow pencil, because it's going to make it last a little bit longer, and using this shadow will make the color just a little bit darker. And this is MAC's Concrete Eyeshadow. And again, I'm using that angled eyeliner brush. And I'm going to start by pressing it along the bottom part of the brow. Not so much here in the front, but starting towards the end of the brow. Just kind of patting or pressing the product on. And then I'm going to start feathering it up. And with whatever's left on your brush, that's what you want to use in this front part of the brow. That way it's not the darkest part. And then again here at the tail. So just like that. Then to really clean up the shape and make it the shape that I want, I'm using my MAC Studio Finish Concealer in NC30. You can use any flat shader brush that you want. My favorite brush to use is still the MAC 231 brush. It's a tiny, tiny little brush. You could also use something like a MAC 242 brush, which I also use sometimes, but when I really want a lot of control, I use the smaller brush because the bristles are a little bit more stiff, and because it's a shorter, smaller brush, you have a lot more control. So again, I'm going to start on the bottom part of my brow, outline it, not starting here in the front, but more towards like the middle. And you can use any concealer that you like. And it doesn't necessarily have to be lighter than your skin tone. It could be a concealer that matches you. But I like to use something a little bit lighter to really lift up the brow. And then again, with whatever's left on the brush, I'm going to go in and clean up the front part of the brow. And you can always use your finger to kind of blend in the product a little bit. Now this step you really want to take your time doing. So when you initially start filling your brows, you're pretty much allowed to be messy with it. But once you go in with the concealer, that's kind of like the definitive moment. So I'm just blending the product down a little bit. And here in the front. Now you can take a blending brush. I'm using my MAC 222. It's a discontinued brush, but you could use something like a 217 or just any fluffy blending brush just to help blend in the concealer here into the crease. I'm not putting it on my lid because I'm going to be putting an eyeshadow primer right before I start my eyeshadow. But it just makes a smoother transition. And then I also take a little bit more concealer and clean up the sides. Now this might look really harsh for some of you, which is fine. This is just how I like to do my eyebrows. I don't usually do my eyebrows this way unless I'm wearing like, you know, a good amount of eye makeup. If I'm going to be wearing very minimal makeup, I only fill it in with eyeshadow and do the clear brow gel at the end, which I will be showing you in a minute. But this is how I do my brows when I'm gonna do like a full face of makeup. Otherwise it just looks kind of odd to have all this brow with nothing to balance it with. And again, you just want to pull the product, whatever's left on the brush, towards the hairline. You can always go back in with your fluffy blending brush and just blend that in. Now, keep in mind, eyebrows aren't meant to be twins. They're sisters. One of them, you know, might be slightly more round than the other, or higher, or more arched. But if you happen to be one of the lucky few that have, you know, pretty symmetrical brows, then that's awesome. But for those of us who don't, we have to work with what we have. So as a finishing step, I've been using the Anastasia Beverly Hills Clear Brow Gel, and I really like this stuff. I hadn't used a brow gel in a really long time, and I was debating, you know, whether to get this or the MAC one, and I just decided to go with this one because Anastasia is really known for her brow products. So you just want to lightly brush them up and then down here at the tail. And I feel like this really adds a polished look to your brows. even if you don't have a whole lot of brow hair. And I feel like adding a brow gel makes my, well, you know, whatever brow hair I do have visible. That way people don't think that I literally don't have any brows. And it keeps them in place. And I feel like it makes, you know, the products that I used on my brows last a lot longer too. Hey guys, so that's the finished look here. I'll come in a little bit closer so you guys can see. So generally it doesn't take me that long to do my brows, but because I'm, you know, walking you through step by step and talking here and there, it can take a little while. I'd say I take about 10 to 15 minutes to do both of my brows, but that's because I like them to look as perfect as I possibly can get them, because they're not symmetrical. You know, it takes a little bit more work to get them to look the way that I want them to. So I really hope you guys found this helpful. Leave any more questions or comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.